Welcome to the 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara virtual Soundwall voting meeting. This meeting is presented by Caltrans in cooperation with Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, or SBCAG. This meeting is for the proposed Soundwall along South Jameson Lane between Humphrey Road and Olive Mill Road. We appreciate your interest and participation in this Soundwall voting process and welcome each of you. Due to the CDC guidelines, this virtual presentation has been prepared instead of an in-person public outreach meeting and will provide the same information as a standard in-person meeting. In addition, an option to vote online has been provided along with a mail ballot. Details on how to submit your vote will be shared later in this presentation. For additional project information, including the project schedule and construction information, please visit www.sbroads.com. In accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Caltrans will make every effort to ensure non-discrimination in all of its programs and activities, and that services and benefits are fairly distributed to all people. In addition, Caltrans will facilitate meaningful participation in the transportation planning process in a non-discriminatory manner. Caltrans Title VI policies and a voluntary survey are found on the Caltrans project website. This Soundwall voting meeting has 4 primary goals. 1. To inform the affected property owners of the Highway 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara project status. 2. To describe how Soundwall locations are determined. 3. To allow affected property owners to ask questions about the Soundwall. And 4. To allow affected property owners to make an informed vote before the May 7th voting deadline. There are 2 ways to submit your vote. You may vote online using the SurveyMonkey link at www.surveymonkey.com/r/soundwalls or return the provided ballot by postal service. Submitted votes must include the property owner's name and street address of the affected property. This is to ensure that only 1 vote will be counted for each affected property. Note that the Soundwall will only be considered if greater than 50% of the affected property owners vote yes. I will now briefly describe project information and the status of the Highway 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara project. Caltrans is adding 1 high occupancy vehicle lane, or HOV lane, in each direction on US 101 within the project limits. The project begins at Baylord Avenue in Carpinteria and ends at Sycamore Creek in Santa Barbara. The project is about 11 miles in length. The project is divided into 5 segments. Segments A and C are currently under construction. Segment B will begin construction by the summer of 2021. Segments D and E are scheduled to continue final design and permitting through 2021. Right-of-way certification is scheduled in 2022, and construction would begin by 2023. Segments D and E, the last 2 segments of the project, start at Romero Creek in Montecito and end near Sycamore Creek in Santa Barbara. There are a total of 6 proposed Soundwalls. The proposed Soundwall affecting your property, as identified by the red arrow, is part of Segment 4D along South Jameson Lane between Humphrey Road and Olive Mill Road. I will now describe how Soundwall locations are determined. Soundwall locations are determined by following a 7-step process which includes identifying sensitive receptors, measuring existing noise levels, predicting future traffic noise levels, identifying traffic noise impacts, considering noise abatement, determining reasonableness, and making a final Soundwall determination. Caltrans has completed steps 1 through 5 and is currently completing step 6, which is the process for determining reasonableness for Soundwalls. Step 6 has 2 phases. In Phase 1, Soundwall locations and dimensions were studied, along with engineering estimates, acoustic feasibility, and environmental effects. Recommendations were incorporated into the environmental document for public review. In Phase 2, input from affected property owners will be considered through the Soundwall voting process. Your participation in Soundwall voting is an important part of determining the reasonableness of the Soundwall affecting your property. A reasonableness decision will be made by Caltrans considering the recommendations found in Phase 1, along with input from the affected property owners in Phase 2. The results of the Soundwall voting and input from the property owners will be taken into full consideration. However, final approval of Soundwalls will depend on the local coastal development permitting process. I will now provide information on the proposed S519 Soundwall affecting your property. These details were provided in the mail brochures you received along with the voting ballot. Sound walls are constructed to lessen traffic noise impacts by blocking sound waves toward potential receptors. Sound wall height recommendations were determined in the traffic noise study and would be built to current engineering standards, which require that sound walls must reduce noise by at least 5 decibels. To be sensitive to the context, Caltrans will design sound walls that incorporate the character and aesthetics of their locations while also reducing sound transmission. Some aspects of sound walls that property owners may consider when submitting their votes include the following. There is the potential of sunlight being blocked by the sound wall in certain areas at various times of the day. Removal of vegetation may be required during construction if it is located at the proposed sound wall footprint. Aesthetic treatments will be implemented, including texture and planting to blend in with the local setting, reflect community values, and discourage graffiti. Sound wall construction activities may create dust, noise, vibration, or temporary fencing that may temporarily affect adjacent properties. If a proposed sound wall is within a floodplain, it will include small flood passage openings for drainage. The proposed S519 sound wall is on the southbound side of the US 101, along South Jameson Lane between Humphrey Road and Olive Mill Road. The wall will be about 2,105 feet in length and is shown as the solid orange line. The properties located within the area of the yellow dotted line are the affected properties. During the voting process, only the affected property owners within the yellow dotted line would be eligible to vote on the S519 sound wall. The sound wall will only be considered if greater than 50% of these property owners vote yes. Here is a cross-section of the S519 sound wall as it relates to southbound US 101, South Jameson Lane, and the affected properties. The proposed sound wall would be about 12 feet tall. Please submit your sound wall vote by one of the two provided methods. Vote online at www.surveymonkey.com/r/soundwalls or return the provided mail ballot by the voting deadline of May 7th. Final sound wall approval will be granted through the Coastal Development Permit. If you still have questions regarding this sound wall, please contact Caltrans by voicemail, email, or postal service to the attention of Jason Wilkinson, Environmental Branch Chief. Thank you for attending the 101 Carpinteria to Santa Barbara virtual sound wall voting meeting. We look forward to receiving your vote.